How to configure the Optigo 10. Control Mode 2. Supply air temperature control with outdoor compensation. Welcome to Regin Academy. In this video, you will learn how to set up the second of the 5 available control modes on the Optigo 10. In this mode, the analog outputs can be configured to 7 different combinations: heating, cooling, heating and cooling, heating and heating, cooling and cooling, heating and damper, cooling and damper. In this tutorial, we will configure the controller to heating and cooling. Please note that in Control Mode 2, the program uses digital output 3 for fan start. The input for fan indication, digital input 1, must be connected and follow the fan output. In other words, if the output closes, the input must also close, or an alarm will be triggered. If there is no fan to start, the simplest solution is to use a relay on digital input 1, which closes when digital output 3 is active. The configuration is done on the unit itself, using the display and the control knob. To enter configuration mode, press and hold the knob for 10 seconds. At 3 seconds, the display will show the clock and scheduler menu. Keep holding the knob depressed. Once in configuration mode, turn and press the knob to select Control Mode 2. In menu 2.1, enter what type of actuator to control: 0 to 10 volts or 3 points. For this configuration, we select 0 to 10 volts. Next, select the configuration of the analog outputs. Again, there are 7 combinations available: heating, cooling, heating and cooling, heating and heating, cooling and cooling, heating and damper, cooling and damper. Since we are configuring heating and cooling, we go to option 3 and select it. Next, we can define the neutral zone, meaning the temperature area between heating and cooling. With a neutral zone of 1 degree Celsius and a set point temperature of 21 degrees, heating will be activated below 20.5 degrees and cooling will be activated above 21.5 degrees. Menu 2.4 is where we set the P-band, which is the proportional deviation required for the output signal to go from 0 to 100%. A higher P-band results in slower control, and vice versa. In menu 2.5 we set the I-time, which is the integral component of the control process that sums the error term over time to determine how fast the output signal changes. The purpose is to create a more stable control curve. A lower I-time results in faster adjustments, and vice versa. Next, we can configure the use of universal input 1, which depends on how the analog outputs were configured. There is frost protection for analog output 1, frost protection for analog output 2, high temperature limit switch, thermal switch frost protection for analog output 1, and thermal switch frost protection for analog output 2. For this example, we choose option 1. On page 2.8, we set the starting point for the outdoor compensation. In other words, if the outdoor temperature drops below the value set here, a compensation will be added to the set point. Let's set the starting point to 10 degrees Celsius. The next step is to set the maximum compensation. On page 2.9 we set the maximum compensation applied to the supply air temperature at an outdoor temperature of -20 degrees Celsius. In practical terms, this means that a set point of 21 degrees will be 26 degrees if the outdoor temperature drops to -20 degrees or below, with the compensation adjusted along a straight curve up to an outdoor temperature of 10 degrees. On the next page, we can configure the controller to use an external set point device by setting the variable to on, but in this example it is set to off. On the I/O page, you can check the current values on your configured inputs and outputs. Finally, we press OK to confirm the settings made. Leaving the configuration level, we arrive at the controller clock. The first variable is the smaller digit, which represents the day of the week. For example, to set it to Thursday, we turn the knob to number 4. After that, we set the hour and minutes. Having set the internal clock, we continue to the scheduler menu. Here we can configure up to 4 time channels, each one defined by an on and an off value. The first value sets the day of the week. 1 through 7 represents the individual days from Monday to Sunday. Number 8 means all working days, and 9 is the entire week. In this example, we select 8 to configure a time channel to cover all working days. We set the starting time to 7 AM and the stop time to 6 PM. After this, it is possible to configure the remaining 3 time channels if necessary, but we will just leave them unused. Finally, the last page is where we see the current output status and can choose to manually override the setting. In this example, the output is on. If we change it to off, it will remain in that state, either until it's manually reactivated or until the next time channel on period begins. Press OK to finish the configuration. Back in normal operations mode, push the knob to access the setpoint menu. To adjust the setpoint, push the button once again, then turn the knob to enter the desired setpoint. Press the button again to confirm. And that's it! You have now configured Control Mode 2 on the Optigo 10. Good job, and thanks for watching this video from Regin Academy.